Do, do, do.
Welcome to episode 36 of the Service Course Report podcast. Today is Wednesday, June 10th, 2026. Welcome. My name's Ed Philbrick. I'm joined by Kurt and Derin Stockton. How are you guys doing today? Early on a Wednesday.
Doing good.
Yeah, not too early, but blue skies, beautiful day. So nothing to complain about. That's for sure.
Yeah, is it sunny down there, Ed, or are you guys fogging?
We're getting lucky on the June gloom,
Yeah, us too. It's sunny up here this morning. We've had the fog cycle, but it's cleared out the last few days. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's been very manageable June gloom, and right now we're having big surf and warm ocean temperatures, so I think that's throwing off the fog cycle. I think May had plenty of fog, and April had April, and
Great. That might be a new one because, in SB, right, there's always June gloom. And then one year we got it late. And so then they dubbed Fogust, is the other one. And then it's May gray, but you got the Grapeful.
so I
I
was
like
riding
it.
I was riding through Rancho Santa Fe the other day, and I was going, man, the weather here is optimal for California. It's close enough to the coast,
Yeah.
and it has the eucalyptus trees that the old railroad planted when they thought they were going to develop railroad ties out of eucalyptus, but it turned out that eucalyptus was too bouncy for trains. But anyway, so the
Wow.
the, the eucalyptus trees kind of break the wind, and I remember coming down there in the late or early 90s, and Santa Barbara had the summer of fog, like where the coast never cleared. Because Santa Barbara, the fog just pins up against the
Yeah.
mountains and just has trouble clearing. And I came down here and I rode in Rancho Santa Fe in the sun, and I'm like, oh my God, this is what bike riding is about, like riding out in the sun, right?
Yeah.
That particular summer did in the Summerlin Cycles bike shop and it also was hard on the rental business in Venice, like the roller
Mm.
skate, bicycle rental business really suffered because the sun just didn't come out on the coast, and people kind of tend to hibernate, not
Yeah.
ride their bikes. So,
Yeah. Yeah. We were down on the weekend on Sunday, and my daughter and we went into Murphy's Vinyl Shack, which is the local used record, new and used, but plenty of used record and CD store. And I was talking to the guy in there, and I was like, does the fog sometimes help? Like people aren't out, so they come in. He's like, no. He's all, sun is always the key. The more sun, the more people, which makes sense. So, yep.
so we're on YouTube. We're getting some comments. Those comments really help us grow. And please share and subscribe on YouTube. You can listen and watch us on Spotify. That's a great place to follow along. We now have each episode of the podcast going to Substack. So if you want to find us, read some of our content, look at our pictures, you can find us on Substack and also listen to the episodes there. So we got a question of the week: suffering versus quitting. You guys have any good examples of suffering versus quitting?
Well, I was going to,
What's the question?
yeah.
Pose it
I,
a little more.
Well, as I was kind of as it was rattling around, and I've been listening to stories of suffering from Unbound, and there was another one in racing, and I've been watching this in a feed of this female rower. I don't know, you guys have seen it, who's attempted to be the first American woman to solo row from California to Hawaii. I've seen some of those posts, and I was just thinking about that. Ooh, that's Kenny Adams right there. I'll have to decline. And I was just thinking about her being like way out in the middle, and talking about the stuff she was doing, and then just watching the athletes at the front of the bike races, watching road racing, just suffering, watching the mountain biking. And I was just thinking about suffering and not quitting, when you dig in, and that it's maybe a bigger lesson of life. And so I tried to scale it back a little bit and just think, all right, do I have any good anecdotes about like suffering versus quitting, or why one time you were on the bubble, and decided to go one way, or to dig in, or you quit, and I don't know. So that was kind of my posed question, if you have any comparisons. So I'll start, since it was
Yeah.
mine, and the one that popped into my mind. KS, you'll remember the story well, although you kind of got screwed by bad luck, was this road race in 1988. at the start of the year. We were on Conejo Valley, and it was up in Northern California. And it was not a super hilly road race, but it had this one long stair stepping kind of hill up and then down, and I don't know how long it was, 80 miles or something. I was just having just the worst day. My legs felt so bad that I was going up the hill every lap and, stair step climb, you want to try and ride it at the front, but I just had nothing. I was like dangling at the back every lap. And I'm just going up and DK is feeding us and shit, buddy. He's yelling at me, you gotta move up, through the feed zone. You know how it is when you're like a half a bike length off the last wheel, no matter what it is. And so I was going up, and this one lap, I was the last guy in the field. And I saw this one guy from NorCal who just like his style of riding and stuff, he never wore socks, and jersey always seemed like it was kind of dirty, and bike was dirty. And I was going up and he was the second to last guy and I was the last guy. And I'm like, there's no way I'm getting dropped and quitting if that guy stays in. So I redoubled my efforts, came around the next lap. I was up at the front, and my main goal was to help KS because he was having a good day, and I was his teammate. And so made it over the climb, the last lap, suffering through, and we're rolling down this fast downhill, and I got KS on my wheel, and we're zinging through, in the field and all that. And I don't know, maybe 2 miles from the finish, KS flatted. And I was like, shit. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'm just going to ride for the sprint. And we came out of the last corner, and I ended up placing everything well and actually misshift into this huge gear, which taught me something in an uphill sprint, and ended up winning the sprint and winning the race. And I got done with it afterwards, and I was like, I thought about the whole scenario on that one bubble lap. If I would have just bailed, one, I would have been feeling bad that I bailed on my teammate, who's also my brother. But then two, I wouldn't have won the race, and learned that probably the best lesson I learned of not quitting was that I didn't have to feel great to win a race. And that was beforehand. You'd always think, you got to have good legs to win a race, when you were younger. This is the year before, I turned pro in 1988. And you'd always think, oh man, you got to have good legs. And I realized that day that you can have absolute crap legs and feel bad and all that. But if you can just somehow stay in the game and make it into the finish, then you can have a shot at the win. So I kind of always try and use that as a larger lesson for life.
Good.
Yeah, that's fun.
I can't say I do. I don't remember that one, but probably because it wasn't as etched in my memory as you.
Yeah. I just remember that was the one too where DK had a Subaru when we got done, and I was still racing my KHS the year before, and we were like where the parking lot was, like this dirt lot, we're up, and we get ready to go. And I was going with DK. We were going to NorCal for a couple of days or something, maybe staying up for race. And we're sitting there, and DK's all, vroom, vroom. We got our bikes up at the rack, and I look at him, and I can see he puts it in first. I'm like, dude, what's he doing? We just like launch off the parking lot, down this hill, bounce, and up the other side of the pavement. And DK was laughing so hard, he'd get the asthma laugh, and peeled off down the road.
What kind of Subaru was it? Like some kind of all-wheel drive type scenario?
Yeah, it was like a early, I don't know the models well enough to know, but it was a hatchback, a white one.
Okay.
That thing for a while. Yeah, like a shorter one, early days, So yeah, but so that was my good one of suffering, suffering and digging in. Quitting. Somebody told me, and I don't remember who, early on racing, and they're like, quitting is a bad habit to get into. Like at a race, I was go, I'm having a bad day, I'll just stop early. I'm doing this. In case you can attest, right, of having been a road director and team owner for all those years. People that get in the quitting habit, that's bad.
Well, because it can become a habit.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Whatever type of behavior it leads to itself, just like the not quitting part, right?
Right.
You don't quit and then you win. So yeah, but it's much more the positive versus the negative.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys got any suffering or quit, or maybe you quit and you're like, dude, that was the best decision that day. I should not have hung in and I should have quit. I don't know. Anything?
Well, I see young riders around here who think they need to be good. Their sponsors tell them that they're good, and their accolades, their Strava, their modeling career, whatever, tells them that they should be good. And so then when they're not achieving good in their mind, they quit because like, I'm supposed to be elite. I'm supposed to provide an elite performance, and then they don't. So then they quit. And then it's like, I want to see you suffer through that zone and earn, the modeling career.
Right.
So it's just an interesting thing. I I feel like they could do a whole episode on this topic, and I could hog the mic quite a bit here. My mom taught me about quitting versus finishing. She rode her bike across the country. She got to upstate New York, and the Airstream convention was passing her for a week straight and blowing her off the road. If you've ever been on a touring bike and the trailer passes you, there's an air suck that causes you to
Right.
wobble. So she quit. She got to the Greyhound, and she was riding to Maine. She was almost there, and she quit. But the next summer, she flew back to the exact same location and finished. So,
Ah,
good
nice.
example. She also
Yeah.
walked the Santa Barbara half Ironman to qualify for Ironman Kona, where she quit the run, didn't probably completed the bike and didn't start the run.
Mhm.
But in her 50s, she qualified, and probably someone who dealt with a lot of arthritis, not super light, lean
Right.
triathlete. She made it there, and
That's
so I don't know.
impressive.
I kind of keep that in mind when I struggled till 9:30 at night to finish a 140-mile BWR in the dark with cramps and not proper lights, and knowing that they're shutting down the finish line and whatever. So I keep her in mind when I try and finish.
Nice. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I guess my example would go back to something I spoke about earlier this year here, where I was doing a hopper pre-ride with Miguel and a couple of the guys he rides with. We pre-rode the Huffmaster course, and that was the one where we were out for like over 6 hours, and 20 minutes in, I knew I should just turn around. And initially, my stubbornness, I didn't turn around, and I suffered the entire day, and I was ready to tap out a couple of times, and I told him, I said, you know what, you guys just go ahead. I know the shortcut back. Then no, keep going, Cass, and they would slow down, and yeah, and then we get to where the shortcut actually is. Oh, and then I'm actually feeling good, and they pushed me along. And the thing was, from all these experiences, when we were kids, I did know that when and if and when I got through it, I would be better for it by just pushing through, and knowing, just like UDS with winning that race, and that you learn from that, oh, hey, something good can happen out of it. And I mean, at the end, I think something good happened out of it for me, and it, was a little bump in my winter bike riding fitness up here. But it was one of
Yeah.
those things where I was super happy that I didn't quit, better for it. And I told Miguel, weeks or months later, we were out riding. I said, I'd love to do more pre-rides with you. And I think that that's the worst day on a bike I've had in the last several years. So please don't, judge my ability to do these rides by that one. And although he hasn't invited me on another pre-ride yet, but, the year's not over.
That is funny when you're just having such a bad day that you really do want to quit, but then you got people there that just won't let you quit.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but they're there, come on. And you're just like, fuck. But then it's good. It pulls you through. That's the camaraderie part of it, that
Yeah.
mutual investment in suffering.
Well, and it was very, obviously, for lack of a better word, kind of enlightening, because I was often the dude on the other end coaxing someone along. You can make it, like
Yeah.
we talked about those backcountry rides with Zeke Johnson, or, when we would go ride our bikes all day, and, and you'd push people along because you knew they'd be better for it. So, yeah.
And also
It was-
you hope maybe they could take a pull once you're back on the flats. No,
Well,
just
yeah,
kidding.
yeah, there's that too.
Like, come on, dude, I need to milk you for like 20 more miles.
Yeah. It's like, I got one more gel for you right here. Just, you do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. It's good to suffer.
Yeah. All right. Well, cool.
So we have a quick free lap about Lyle Levitt. DS, you want to chime in on that one?
Yeah, I will. Our question supplier, Joe Aspatori, pointed out to me as I was saying that Lyle Levitt was a big cycling guy. He's actually a big moto guy. And now that Joe said that, and we did a little bit of research, it does ring a bell, because I remember when I was deep in my moto working years, remember hearing about that. And so we just did a quick peruse, and this is a picture of him at age 13 of Lyle Levitt working on a Penton motorcycle, which is pretty cool. Yes, that probably brings back just a little bit of memories of just like being a kid and just having that, a moto, a bike or something that you can just work on and you're just so excited about it. You just look at every detail. He's even got I didn't even notice that before. He's got the patch on the left knee. Something of our younger generation era. Now, you just go on Sheen or something, I guess, and click a new pair. Before we had patches on the knees. But yeah, so there he is at age 13.
Look at that bike, and then he continued it, right?
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Now, we didn't get all the way through. He said his first bike was a Z50. I don't know if that's his original one in the background or maybe he just, redid it, that little mini bike. But the interesting thing is it said that years later he did the voiceover for a documentary on John Penton, which is pretty cool that he was a kid with a Penton motorcycle and then, and then ended up doing it. So as you guys know, if you get the Jones, the love of two wheels, whether it's got a motor or not, or skinny or fat or whatever, there's just something about it gets inside of you.
Very cool.
Yeah. So there you go. There's my free lap.
So we got, aspiratory is good for content. That's twice now. So we'll keep him involved.
Ride all the bikes.
That's right.
So let's see. Anybody do any interesting rides in the last week or got any planned?
You guys, Chaos?
I mean, we've been having this amazing weather and conditions on the dirt. My buddy Chris Foyt and I did one of our kind of staple rides. It's about a 4-hour ride. We call it the Chalk Bluff Loop, and we go down through a quarry and on these Forest Service and logging roads. And I hadn't been out there in a while, and they've taken the blade out to some of these roads and smoothed them out and thrown some fresh gravel down in sections. So it was we got out last Saturday, and it was spectacular. The crystal, as they say, the bluebird sky, those big puffy clouds. And I had one of those rare days where I pushed on the pedals and they didn't push back the entire day. So actually felt good. So I'm just going to, tick that box and say how amazing it was and hope for more of that in the days to come. Yeah, been spectacular.
Nice. That sounds good.
Yeah.
Have you noticed?
Go ahead.
Have you noticed a lot of road work or tractor work having to do with power lines? Like, are protecting power lines and taking out wood poles and putting in metal poles and regrading all the roads and fire prep? Do you see a lot of that activity going on?
Well, like this last route that we did, there are a bunch of off-grid homes. Well, not a bunch, a few of them up in that area. But the only power lines are the high voltage, the transmission lines. And there's one section on this ride where we go across and a transmission line hits perpendicular, and there's a huge swath, but it's been cut, 50 feet on each side of those lines. No, not, there has been clearing work. We've had a ton of them clearing out the underbrush and the chipping and doing that. But it's more for access to, then they'll build a road and get back so they can do a little bit more logging. But on that particular ride, no. They've been pretty good about that up here. I think more of it is they install those sensors now where if, a tree falls on the line, it just shuts the whole system down. We had that happen in town a few weeks ago, but no, not on that particular one, but because they have been working on that for years up here.
Yeah, I hear they're regrading all the SDG&E power line roads underneath all the high tension lines or from pole to pole, changing out wood poles. There's just a lot of activity.
Right.
Sometimes I question their grading. It's okay, so you just went through and just made it all powdery, and I'm not sure that you improved it for an emergency vehicle, but
right.
They're not laying down gravel after the fact.
No. It's just they're softening it up, and then it's just going to rut out if it rains this summer. I don't know. Sometimes their road work techniques are questionable, but.
Well, I think timing too, you'd like to grade it when you knew there was maybe still a little bit of rain coming, not torrential, of course, but so and tamp it down. But, I could see how trying to schedule, that's luck of the draw, right? They're scheduled months and months out to do that type of work.
Yeah, we're pretty fortunate that we have a lot of these roads that do go through, private land or semi-private land, or land that the timber companies have leases on. So, they're out there extracting. They don't want their vehicles to get stuck. So when they work on the roads up here, they'll cut the road, then they'll grade it, then they'll throw down, the big stuff like the 3-inch rock and run the Dynapack over it, and then, put down the road base as well. So we get that. Not every time, but like we wrote this amazing section. We come out at the end, and yeah, there's the blade out there and the Dynapack, and they're bringing it in. So I think it just depends. And for them, right, having to pull one, multi-$100,000 truck out, that gets stuck is not worth it. So
Right.
it's a little bit of self-preservation, but it's great, and we see the moto riders out there. I mean, we saw a guy on a brand new, a 2-stroke where you could hear him, well, not brand new because they're not making them. And then a guy came by behind him on like a 70s era Honda XL 125, and they were out riding together, and it was just, yeah, it was cool to see that. And then, of course, I'm always happy to have them that flashy front light on, because then they see you. As soon as you come into line of sight with them, they see your light flashing and they slow down for you. So,
Yeah, nice.
yeah, we're very fortunate with the roads up here.
Yeah, I was going to add one thing. Interestingly enough, even though 4-strokes are the majority of bikes in trail riding, that type of stuff, 2-strokes, there is a big market for 2-strokes. Kawasaki actually just released their first new 2-stroke in, like, I don't even know, 20 years. But yeah, it is just because, a 2-stroke, it has so many less moving engine parts, and where those moving parts up on a 4-stroke are higher up. So there's a lot more centrifugal force. So if you're going fast, it's not as big of a deal. But when you're in tight wood stuff and, going along, it can just feel, really heavy. Try and get it to tip. So a lot of guys will still run 2-strokes. That's what JT has, that top of the line, like Husqvarna. I think it's a 300 or a 350 2-stroke. It's like super trick, fuel injection, oil injection into the fuel. You don't have to mix it, but it's still a 2-stroke. That way we don't have to take a free lap on 2-strokes next week. Aspiratory will be telling us. So I'm pre-Joeing. I'm throwing a Joe pre-karate chop.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Defensive move.
So what's up with Husqvarna? They're pulling out of Supercross or changing
the Husqvarna race team is going away. The factory race effort, it's all part of KTM. They just overextended themselves. They I think they license Husky and they own Gas, but they were running like 3 full factory race teams, and then they pared down Gas, and now they're paring down Husky, and they're just going to sponsor, other teams. But yeah, it's just budget, that's what it is. And once the contracts run out and things go, then you can decide to make that move. That's what's going on.
Did they roll up and close down their e-bike business, or the Husqvarna?
They closed that a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
When they did all that, that big push, and they had like the gas e-bike up at Sea Otter and all that, they just shelved all that. They sold felt, because they had bought felt, they sold felt. They got out of all their bicycle stuff. I mean, they were like, KTM was like, they barely made it through, with the restructuring. They just got so overextended, and part of that, Husky and Gas. So they're just trying to pare it all down. And KTM, of those 3 brands, was always the brand that they pushed the most anyway. So then you're kind of like, okay, well, we're, on the one hand, you could say, oh, we got 3 different bike brands, and their niche on that was that they were all kind of similar. They all used the same frame. They were, the Huskies were supposed to be trick. You add a little carbon fiber and all that, but it was essentially kind of the same bike. And so on the one hand, they're like, oh, it's great. We're selling more bikes. We got all that, more bikes in the class. But then after a certain point, you're like, but you are also competing against yourself. You're marketing against KTM with Gas and Husky, or vice versa, whichever way you look for it. So I think since KTM's the core brand and the money was tight, I think it was a stipulation of whatever investment group came in to help, restructure and save it.
So no e-bike efforts continue under any of that?
No, the only e-bike effort was all the ones that they had in stock. They had a deal where if you bought a Husky, you got a free Husky e-bike, or if you bought a Gas, you got a free Gas e-bike. But I think once they're out, they're out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that that was kind of like doing those e-bikes under the brands of the motorcycles was to sell bicycles to people that already had motorcycles? Because it seems challenging, right, for a
Right.
Husqvarna e-bike to jump in and go up
Correct.
against a specialized e-bike because
You,
bicycle people don't know.
right, right. Yeah, that was the theory, right? Is that you're trying to get people who are, and that's why they didn't make gas road bikes or anything like that. You figure a e mountain bike, for a moto person, there's a pretty quick crossover. They could go right there. And then also you're looking for revenue that you can sell bicycles at power sports stores, which is what they did. Intense Bicycles did that when they kind of restructured several years ago and made their big push and used people from the motorcycle industry.
Seems like
So
though I've never really seen that work long term. I mean, maybe you could buy a Porsche and you get a Porsche branded bicycle or a Jeep or
still,
right
Volkswagen.
yeah,
Volkswagen with the Trek Volkswagen team, and it
it's
seems like
never
it
worked.
it there's a little like an initial, and maybe it's just the push. It's the big marketing push, and everyone gets all hyped up. But yeah, it's a formula that doesn't seem to work. So
Yeah,
maybe that was an
that formula.
amateur move right there.
Yeah, and
Like
it's people just people got caught out in the think about it. That group, they were not only motorcycles, but then also bicycles. So they rode a double wave up. And then, when the bike market dropped out, I mean, everybody was obviously taking a bath, especially on e-bikes at that point. And then motorcycles were also suffering, for the same reason, big bump in COVID. And then after that, everybody's got their new bikes and sales trail off. So yeah, that's that whiplash effect of it.
I noticed that my moto-centric friends that come from motorcycle wanted a Husqvarna e-bike. That's what they wanted. You
Well,
know,
dude, it's cool if you
yeah.
ride a Husky or you got a KTM. You're like, no way, now they got an e-bike. This thing's sick. Yeah, I
And
can
that
see it.
they have a jersey with Husqvarna on it. I still saw quite a few Husky setups at Sky Park. Like
Oh,
rolling
really?
out the full Husky mode.
Maybe they took part in all those deals that were going
They
on.
did. I'm sure they did. It was a good deal.
Yeah, dude, you can get a bike for cost or something. Why not? Yeah, for sure.
I think that goes to the point though, right? If you're a bike company, make bicycles. If you're a moto company, make motos. I mean, look at Cannondale, right?
Yeah,
They did good on the bicycle side, and then they tried to make the motorcycle, and supposedly it was a good bike, but it just wasn't really what they did, and ultimately it was that proverbial nail in the coffin.
yeah. Now, have you guys been following this also brand of bikes, which is Rivian's e-bike? Have you seen any of the hype or the media on this?
No, I need to.
Never
It's
heard about it.
pretty interesting. You should look it up. Also bikes and it's if you look at the bike, it's definitely
Also,
interesting. They did a lot. Yeah, also capital ALSO. Bikes, and it's Rivian's e-bike offshoot. But not only are they making e-bikes, and they're made on made for more, it's not like a performance bike, right? It's made for getting around, for cargoing, for things like that. But then they also are making some four-wheel vehicles that are legal to go in bike lanes. So in terms of if you're carrying cargo or something like that, now you have if you're sorry about that, guys, if you're you know carrying cargo, you have that, and it's just like an interesting looking bike. So they have the four wheelers, which I thought was pretty interesting because they're legal to go in bike lanes based on the power and their size and everything. So
God,
now,
look at that. They have a full-on like delivery vehicle, like a
yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
like a
That's
little
pretty
mini
smart.
van.
Yeah, correct. So you're looking at being able to do like small scale delivery, but in an area that's, the power parameters of it are such that it's not treated like a car, if my understanding of all that is correct.
Yeah, it's like reserve one now. They're not quite shipping.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm not sure exactly what part you're at, like what part of the exact development. I've been just like trying to stay up on it, and they have these little, they were out in Ojai and they take trips and they do it. And, I mean, it's got like a pretty burly upside down front fork on there and some suspension. It looks like you could actually, get out, and get on the dirt with
Yeah,
it.
I
Well,
noticed that fork. Check that out. Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, DS.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
So you just, keep, I'm sure now that you looked at it once, all the big owls will feed it in through your,
Yeah.
feed it in.
reserve now to ride sooner.
There you go.
$50 fully refundable Tesla style deposit. You know what I mean? Tesla was big on
Yeah,
their
that
deposits.
way they generate a little bit of
Yeah.
capital. So that's one style e-bike. Well, while you guys are kind of oogling over that, I'll tell you my rides. Did some gravel. I actually got out early on Monday. Today's Wednesday. Based on timing, I have a early East Coast video client I do, and got done. And so I rode from like 6:40 to 7:30 or something, and just ripped out on the bluffs and came back. But as the sun was kind of in that mid morning up, dude, there are the rabbit, squirrel, and bird trails. I was like wishing I had a GoPro on. There were so many rabbits hopping back and forth, because you guys remember out there, it's like the trail goes and there'll be, like bushes on both sides. So they're hopping out in front and the lighting's low. And these birds were flying out like in the corridor that I was in and then just like flying right in front of me for a couple seconds and then darting out. So it's fun. You forget. I haven't been out on any like super early morning gravel rides like that. Pretty early. You forget about the different ecosystems at different times of the day. So that was that was Monday. I got out and did that, which was really fun out there. There's this one section when you're heading south out towards like Rincon Beach. And there's this kind of zigzag through the bushes and the ocean's down on the right. And it's this section that's really fun because it's just slightly fast down to hill, like barely, maybe 1% or 2. So if you click it, you can kind of roll pretty fast and the corners are just fast enough that you can no break it. But you got to kind of slide it. And so I practice and I ride up on the tops through there because it teaches me to try and hit the corners without considering the brakes. So you just like soft pedal for pedal stroke or two and then pedal on it as you drive through the corner. And so it was exciting going through there with my hands not on the brakes and then having all the animals darting in front of me and out. I'm like, all right, it's up to you guys. Stay out of my way.
So
So
I was stuck in
yeah,
the also bicycle
yes.
website, partly because I own a couple shares of Rivian and they've done horrible. So I'm like, oh, could this help? Um, I'm always trying to cheer Rivian on. I hear that
Right.
the quality of their vehicles is really shoddy,
Huh.
but their marketing is innovative. They came into my community and partnered with my buddies at Tidewell Coffee, who are
Hmm.
a little pop-up street vendor,
Hmm.
and they, get drive a Rivian, get a free cup of coffee, and it was just a nice little partnership. Rivian is just really big at farmers markets and on the ground street fairs, and then they're in the trendiest of malls like Tesla is.
Yeah.
So I hope this also thing is a equivalent success. I also wanted Amazon to buy Rivian vehicles for their deliveries, and I never could quite understand why that wasn't happening because I know Amazon is a big investor in Rivian.
Right.
I've seen Amazon Rivian delivery vans in Northern California.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I've for a year and a half, maybe a couple of years, like because it's a very unique looking van, right? It's got
Yes.
and
Square.
the side and it's square and the rear wheels are covered. Part of it, like the wheels sit in. There's like almost a fairing that goes. The side of the van comes down over the rear wheels. It's totally utilitarian. Like it looks like
Yeah.
the ultimate delivery vehicle in
Yeah.
that perfectly square shape. So I'm sure the shelving and how it's probably modular inside for that type of stuff. So
Well, I hope Amazon can learn from FedEx and improve their driver safety. Every time I see an Amazon van, it's got dents and stuff, and you don't see dents on a FedEx
Yeah.
vehicle because FedEx
Yeah.
has a really high standard for their driver performance. I get a little worried when I'm out riding around Amazon vehicles. Those guys, they got to go from left to right side of the road, and you never know
yeah,
what door they're going to pop out of. And
Yeah.
so, when you're riding, were you riding early in the morning? Was it dark or twilight? Or
No, it was like twilight morning. Oh, well, now it's getting light pretty early. So I left, like I said, the house at I think 6:40. I rolled out. and then did it. So yeah, so just that morning, but all the critters were out.
There's a
It was
bird
fun.
called a polo weevil. Probably not
Hmm.
quite saying that correct, but they're the ones that get fooled by your bike lights in the low light. They're the
Oh,
ones that like
really?
flutter in front of you, in the
Uh,
evening when your bike light hits them. So I was wondering if they were also there in the morning.
yeah, I don't know. I'll have to scope it out. I'll bring my bird watching book.
Yeah, they're
My
like this big
bird.
puffy thing, and all of a sudden it's like almost like you think there's an owl in front of you, but it's
Huh.
really this little bird.
Yeah. Yeah.
How
So
it,
that,
a
what's
lot
that?
less people, like more
Oh
nature,
yeah.
less people, huh?
It's a busy summer in carp. It's our tourist season hitting, and so if you try and get out in the bluffs at 10:30 or 11 or something, which I normally don't do anyway. I mean, not on a weekend, but on a weekday for sure, it'll be busy. If I ride on the weekend, usually if I'm not out early, I try and get up behind Summerlin. A little less traffic up there, or just get out on the mountain bike, which is what I did on Sunday on my mountain bike. I went and I just rode Romero, and I was just like, I've been kind of getting into on the e-bike about just like charging solidly, for the distance. I'm like, I wonder how fast I can just go up down Romero. And Romero is, have a long history on there, left many bike parts and body parts out on the out on the trail at certain points. But Romero, the single track, I call it my yin and yang trail because, if you take the fire road, it's pretty similar all the way up and down. It's kind of our typical sandstone, rocky part. But the single track, the single track is probably like a third and two thirds. The top part takes about 5 minutes. The bottom part is 10 or 12, something like that. The top part is all shale and really narrow and just perched right on the side of the hill. I mean, there's almost no rock in the whole top part down. And as soon as you hit the mid range and then drop off, then it starts getting rocky. And so I like it because it forces you, you just got to adapt. And when it's that loose and slippery, it really is like riding mud. Like it takes a minute to get into it and then you're just letting it go. You're just flowing with it and going down, and then you cross over and then you drop down the next part and there's a fast intro and then it's tight and you're rocky and you're down by the creeks. So yeah, so that was my Sunday ride too. It was a lot of fun.
Well, Romero is sort of your middle name. You designed a
Yeah,
tire for Panaracer that is
that's
called the
right.
Romero.
Yeah, Romero. Yeah, I got that designed for those type of slippery and dry conditions. So yeah, so I do have a good history with Romero. Yeah, so those were our rides, huh?
Yeah.
I think
Chaos.
it is a pretty iconic trail. I think, doesn't Aaron Stinner also does he have a bike called the Romero?
I think he must have a Romero. He's
Yeah.
got to. Yeah,
I know
He's
they
got
have
a
one,
Refugio.
Refugio. Yeah.
Refugio.
yeah. I thought that he had a Romero, but we'll have to double check on that.
Yeah.
On our Substack, you can see a famous picture of Terry Gerhard, who was quite inspirational in our initial mountain bike rides, and he
Yeah,
plays a role deep in mountain bike culture because he is Yeti,
right.
desert road green or blue, whatever you want to classify that color, is his original bike, and John
Yeah,
Parker and him got that color from Dodge, and his Ritchie was painted that color, and we have a picture of him leading the 7-Eleven guys secret, training ride on. I think most of them are on mountain bikes in that photo, but that is on Romero. You
yeah,
can find that on our Substack on, I think, our first article that was ever published there.
yeah. I think so.
Yeah, and yeah, Stinner Frameworks, they have a medium travel and a long travel mountain bike called the Romero. So they do
Yeah,
have the Romero. All their bikes are named. It's actually pretty cool. All their bikes, almost all of them, right? The Romero, the Tunnel, Refugio,
right.
Gibraltar, and I don't know, the Carrizo. I don't know if that's a trail or where that name came
Well,
from, but
Carrizo is Carrizo Plains, which is kind of near Cuyama, or more the Santa Maria side of Cuyama.
okay.
It's a famous biological area, Carrizo Plains. It might even be the Cuyama Valley. It's kind of where heavy carrot farming is going on, and they're draining all the water out of the valley, and it's changing the biodiversity there. But
Yeah.
that's the Carrizo
That's the
Plains.
Carrizo.
Hey
So
guys,
all bikes named locally.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have to put the video on pause for just a moment and dip off. I just got to attend to something here real quick and take a call, and then I'll be right back on.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
Okay. All right. the video off too here.
So I didn't tell my rides. They're not too spectacular. I did the Swami's world famous. I don't understand where it gets the world famous part, but world famous Swami's ride. The first Saturday of the month is in reverse. So reverse just means more climbing for me, more chances to get dropped. So, I always try and find the regroups and the people who cut out certain parts and keep it going. And then on Saturday, or that was Sunday, we rode down to La Jolla, which is always spectacular. Sunday, you can get yourself through Torrey Pines on the inside road. A lot of hikers, but it's quite a spectacular, closed road. It's always fun to ride up Torrey Pines. Highly recommended if you come to San Diego that you ride the inside road of Torrey Pines. Those were my rides. Pretty tired. Big week for me.
That's the MMR of Torrey Pines State Park. That inside one. That's a old paved road. I think I've been on that. Kind of parallels the main road.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And it's only one direction. It's you can take it north to south. You can't go the other way around.
Oh, really? Interesting. So then you get up to the top and then you just bomb down the main road?
Yeah, we went down into La Jolla
Okay.
and then came back around. My friends had some secret neighborhood loop in there, which is always fun. There's a lot of white concrete streets in La Jolla that are quieter and away from traffic.
If I was to say it's been a few years since I've been to La Jolla, that would be an understatement. So I'm sure it's changed quite a lot since the days of the La Jolla Grand Prix and eating at the Chart House there.
Well, the chart house is sadly gone. I'm not quite sure what's in there to replace it because it had, it was historic architecture. It had a 50-foot door and all kinds of bohemian hippie architecture. It's sadly, I think, gone. A lot of the, chart house locations were spectacular, and we have one chart house in Cardiff, maybe on the entire California coast, but
that one's there. So is the building itself gone?
I think it's there, but it's definitely not a restaurant.
Yeah. But the architecture was preserved, maybe.
I hope so, yeah. I think it was originally part of a hippie pottery commune scenario, and somebody designed it, and then it became the chart house. So, it had a long history.
Yeah. Well, that reminds me of this time I got to go hang out at the Las Vegas Country Club, like the original country club. And this was right before it had been sold, I think, to a group of investors, and they were, going to put in condos or whatever. And I believe they were going to try to at least preserve the main clubhouse because it's that same crazy wooden architecture, like you said, and the high ceilings and just super ornate. I mean, this is from the, the dawn of Vegas, the original Las Vegas Country Club. And, at a very minimum, you would hope they would at least preserve it and move it somewhere else if they don't leave it there, because they, like I said, they don't, looking at that old Penton that the 13-year-old Lyle Lovett was tinkering with, it's they don't build them like that anymore. Everything is so much different. It's cool to see that stuff.
Yeah, speakeasy culture is the thing now. Sky Park actually has a speakeasy where you have to go and get this token and stick it in the thing, and then the door opens and they kind of sneer at you and look and see if you're dressed appropriately, and then they let you in and tell you your bikes have to stay outside, and
Right.
And I was thinking about speakeasy culture in La Jolla. We have the Whaling Room in La Jolla, and it was dark, and Moby Dick painting on the wall, and it just didn't quite fit the modern culture. It wasn't modern and contemporary. So quickly they had to European it in the 80s and 90s, and make it Euro or a French bistro. And now it's back dark and dingy in the Whaling Bar again. It's we go full cycle. We think that we need to change, and then we come back. So
it's funny how that works. Bell bottoms are making a comeback again, I'm sure.
Yeah, Adam Blythe, the co-host on Eurosport. If you watch the Giro or something, I notice his pants are getting big and wide again. So I see we're going around full circle. No more skinny jeans. So
yeah, he co-hosts with Lyle Lovett, right? Yeah. Awesome. Well, speaking of that, right? We had some racing going on.
We sure did.
Yeah.
Matt Wilson, Tulsa Tough. That's a story right there.
Yeah, I thought that one was awesome. So anyone's not familiar with who Matt Wilson is, a Kiwi, um, he was one of the two riders for Scott that was on a 32-inch wheel bike at Unbound. Him and his.
No, he wasn't on 30. He wasn't
he
on
wasn't
30.
on?
No.
So it was just Cam Jones that was on the 32?
Correct. Cam and the guy who won the XL.
Okay, my mistake. Well, free lap. Yeah, but so he finishes Unbound with over 10 hours of racing, right? We all saw how DS is back.
I'm back.
So he finishes Unbound, 28th overall, 10 hours, 11 minutes of racing, and secures the last wildcard slot for the Grand Prix. And then a week, 8 days later, he shows up for the third race of the Tulsa Tough trilogy of criteriums, Crybaby Hill, which is arguably the most challenging criterium in America these days. There were some that were tougher, including the old Nevada City Classic in my town now. But as he said, he borrowed a friend's or a mate's road wheels, threw them on, and went and won Crybaby Hill on day 3. And I was just like, there's all these of thinking about how many event-specific type bikes there are, and you've got aero road and aero gravel and criterium bikes and this and that. And this guy threw some road wheels on his gravel bike, his Attic gravel, and went out and won the hardest criterium in America. I mean, granted, it is, I think we might have been talking about this before, and it's a little bit more like a circuit race than just a full, fast, flat criterium. But you can't fake your way through that race. You can't win that race by floating wheels. And so it was just really cool to see that he did that and just kind of, threw the whole playbook out. And he's like, there was some time I wanted to see America, so I did it. And it was awesome.
He said he couldn't stay around and celebrate after the race because he was driving out to ride Lost and Found in your neighborhood. So he's making the rounds. He came over originally with Cam Jones, their buddies. And so last year, I think he might have qualified for Lifetime last year. But anyway, this year he won Whiskey 50 mountain bike race. He was third at BWR. I think he had a little bit of a mishap. He was third at BWR California. And he Lifetime Grand Prix qualifier, and then Crybaby Hill victor. So he's on quite a tear. Yeah. He might be the Cam Jones of this year.
He's actually a bike racer, a well-rounded bike racer,
multifaceted.
Yeah, and it's the motor, not always the equipment, right? I mean, there is that, and I think we got a little bit of that coming up, but right, all that super high-tech, high-end stuff that really at the end of the day, it's going to really change the result for 0.5% of the very pointy end of those athletes that are there. But you just got to get out there and pedal and do it. And he did that. So
that's cool.
To use a term, chapeau to you, Matthew Wilson.
Yeah, it's really cool.
For throwing the playbook out the window.
KS, you watched the end of the women's Giro?
Yeah, it was, I would say not, and I'm laughing because it was so great, but not quite as much of a nail biter as the Vuelta, but it did come down to the very last stage with the lead changing on the last day.
Oh, nice.
And and interestingly enough, Anna van der Bruggen, who has made her comeback the last couple of years, was again on the receiving end of losing the leader's jersey on the last day and conceding overall victory. This time to her compatriot from the Netherlands, Demi Vollering, who, we're all thinking on the Queen stage on that Saturday that had two big climbs, including a mountaintop finish, and they, with literally 10 Ks to go before the summit of the penultimate climb, the organization shortened the event and made a makeshift finish line because apparently there was a giant ice sheet up above part of the road that was looking very unstable. And they couldn't risk bringing the race by and the whole caravan by and everything. So they shortened the race. Vollering, she did win the stage, ended up getting a few seconds back, but she went into the last day a minute down.
Oh.
A minute down, and the last stage had a big climb in it, but then it was almost 40 Ks to the finish over the top of the climb. and she went for it and, kept punching until she got away from Vanderbruggen. And then she had a teammate up the road that was in the breakaway, caught them and rode. I mean, she rode away, rode in, became just the second rider in history to do the triple of the Grand Tours with the women. So totally spectacular. Got her jersey the last day. The only other rider that did that was Annemiek van Vleuten, who finished her triple in 2023. So it was super exciting, and the racing is it's off the hook. The women's racing. I think the tour is going to be off the hook too. So now she has a chance to do the double in the same season. Right. Because Vanderbruggen never won the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift because they get toward the end of her career. I don't know if she raced that or she wasn't quite there. The Dutch women's still dominating on the roadside. Exciting.
So this Canadian woman, Little Trek Holmgren,
Isabel Holmgren, yeah,
Holmgren. She was the best young rider. She's interesting, like body position on the bike. Interesting. Has she had results before? She was new to me.
She's a U23 XCO world champion, I believe is what it is. So Canadian. She does come from on the mountain bike side, getting in, and is pulling double duty now. I would argue even a bit more double duty than Pidcock in that I think she is racing the entire that World Cup circuit on the mountain bike. I believe. If someone's going to call me out, maybe I'm calling myself out that I don't know for sure. But that's it. And she's still right. She won the Young Riders jersey, and we saw her in the finale at the Liège as well. So she's been there.
Yeah.
And her teammate for me was kind of the shining light of that Giro, women's Giro, winning Balsamo, being Italian, winning 4 stages in her home tour, and walking away with the points jersey. It's like you had that going on. You had the lead change on the last day. Exciting stuff, Sim.
Yeah, it's interesting that in my sandwich conversations, when I'm eating a sandwich at a picnic table, people mostly are bringing up the women's racing to me. Like that's the most common thing. Did you watch the women's Giro? I think it's compact. It's not 3 weeks. I don't, it's like the racing is more dynamic. People are very interested. It's cool to see.
Yeah. Less predictable, right? We have these scenarios in our head on how it's going to happen. And it seems like we're getting a lot less of it actually playing out as the pundits think it's going to happen in the women's racing than on the men's side, as evidenced by the men's Giro with Jonas and Visma kind of, strolling away with it, and what Pogačar's done his last several Grand Tours. So it is exciting. If you're looking for dynamic racing, check it out.
Well, and even, makeshift racing, when they drew that rope across the road and put up a makeshift finish line, that was crazy. Yeah. Like that. It looked like they literally dragged a rope, not even tape, across the road to
for the strip. Yeah. Hey man, sometimes you just got to do it.
Yeah.
It's interesting too. There was all this, they would never do this in a men's race. Oh, they only did it 10K. It's like, for anybody, for people to complain about that and having never been involved with event organization and then race organization at that level, and how many moving pieces there are, and when they got to make the call as far as, can they get the vehicles over the top that are closing the crossroads over ahead of them? I mean, there's so many different things that happen there.
They did it
for people to bitch about it.
Team tour.
Right.
I mean, that's essentially the exact same thing. Okay, they didn't pull a rope out, but that's only because when they went over the top, there was a KOM line. And then on the descent, it was dangerous, so they had to clip it right then. But I'm telling whoever said that about only women's racing, that's a free lap, if you're correct, is that's happened to plenty of people.
Yeah, it is. And it's
plenty of both. Yeah.
People, Bernal didn't complain that year, and Alaphilippe did, but it was like, what are you going to do? That's
racing. You're out on an open course. There's snow slides and weather and rain, and that's part of it. That happens. Yeah.
Not in a stadium.
Yeah,
Man,
and you got to have the emergency vehicles need to be able to get to somebody if they're hurt, so
yeah. So I went as a sidebar, as we were just talking about rain, it reminded me of something, and we kind of forgot to bring this up in racing, but how God, what's his name? Oliver's his last name. The guy from Modern Adventure Cycling who won stage 2 of the Tour de Wallonie and ended up, getting the leader's jersey and all that. And so I just wanted to go back and
Ben Oliver.
see the stage finish, Ben Oliver. And so I don't know, I watched the last like 10K or 8K or something like that, and it was just pouring rain. And so I'm watching this race, and they're showing the helicopter shot, with maybe, I don't know, 10K to go, and it looked like there's 50 or 60 guys still in the front group, in those classic just like Flemish roads, and you're going up and down and left and right. And I was thinking about watching that and thinking, people who, if you're not deep into cycling, right, you maybe watch bigger events, the Tour, the Giro, stuff like that. And I was just thinking about on stage 2 of Tour de Wallonie in the rain, how good every single racer was that was in that front group of 60, and not even the biggest race going on. But as you guys both know, dude, you're just in a race that's mostly flat. People are motivated. They're attacking. It's raining. You're having to slow down more through corners, speed it up, those roads, cracks in the roads, and just how hard the effort is. And for the one, I was just thinking, man, it's just to even be in that group, the body of work that it requires you to do, is massive. But then just watching him win the sprint and how it all played out for him, and you can go back and watch the last couple K, it was really exciting to see them, get that moment. And I don't know if it maybe didn't get more in the press. It would have been great if he was obviously an American on that team, but I think the fact that that team is over there, getting that, they're working in increments, and you wonder if Hincapie being over at the Giro was maybe him working the angles to try and get that team in there next year or something.
Sure, it was.
Yeah, yeah. But I thought that was a pretty cool moment
Well, I think
for
you
modern
bring up
adventure.
a good point there too, DS, is that if you're really a true fan of the sport, there's tons of great racing happening almost every day. And it's not
Yeah,
just the classics and maybe the semi-classics in the Grand Tours, right? The big races with all the big names, they get all the hype, but man, it is good. And if you are a true fan of the sport and a student of it, and you're studying it, because right, we talk about tech here, and we talk about suffering and all of that, and it's like all that stuff is wrapped up into every one of these races, and all you got to do is take the time to actually get off the 30-second feed and go watch the racing and see how it plays out. It is super intriguing. And then it's like, then you see how much these athletes actually really are putting into it to make all of that happen. Um, people sit on their couch. Oh yeah, I could do that. That doesn't look too difficult. It's like, yeah,
like,
good luck.
no, you couldn't.
No, you couldn't. Yeah, not even good luck. No, you couldn't.
Well,
Yeah.
in that sprint, Ben Oliver, who's a Kiwi, beat Arnold DeLee, who's going to be switching teams next year. He's going to be on Tudor next year.
Oh,
You know,
interesting.
and DeLee is, sometimes the great future of Belgian cycling. He seems a little
Right.
inconsistent, but that guy is, he reminds me a little of DS, young DS. So,
Arnaud Delis. And then
yes.
he also beat Riley Sheehan,
True.
if you guys saw that, which, yeah, he definitely, that was spicy. That's always fun to see him up there.
Arnaud Delis and Arnaud de DS.
Arnaud
Delis.
yes.
Yeah. All right. I digress.
All right. So that's some racing. We don't have a what went wrong, blinded by science.
I don't know. Did you guys want to talk about the race formerly known as the Criterium Dauphiné, even though I have not watched the last two stages? I don't care if you spoil it, or do you want to wait till it's completely over for the next episode?
Well, I think we need to talk about Quinn Simmons winning a stage today. I haven't watched it, but that's a big moment for American cycling and for him. He's Mr. genetically predisposed Watt factory, and he won in the sprint today, it looks like. So that's a big moment for American cycling. He won in the Stars and Stripes. He's a controversial figure, but he won.
Yeah, that's great. I was watching that early. I had an early Was up early this morning. Actually, a client was running late and I flipped that on and saw it, but I just saw them when they were in the break and they were positing. What's going to happen? They need to get away. It's nice to see Quinn up there, see
Yeah.
him up there racing.
And in the leader's jersey this morning, we had Matteo Jorgensen from taking the lead yesterday from the team time trial and actually crossing the line first in that sort of team time trial format where you get your leader across the line at the end there.
Nice. So that's what happened there. So we went from an American team leading with, was it Alex Baudin, to an American leading. Cool.
Yeah.
That bodes well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is cool.
So Mateo's all healed up then from the collarbone injury from Amstel Gold, it appears.
Well, and I think Visma
That's a
seems
rough
to
one.
have their team time trial set up rolling slick. I think Net Company, formerly known as Ineos, they struggled a little bit waiting for Oscar only yesterday, and so Visma looks good for the tour because we have a team time trial as stage 2, right? Stage 2 or 3 of the
Stage
Tour de
2,
France
yeah.
in Spain this summer.
How was UAE in that TT with Del Toro?
Good
Do
question.
you recall? I'm 2 stages behind, so
Yeah.
there's only so much you can do to avoid this, getting the spoilers and,
It's tough these days.
Yeah.
If a race happens, I'll do that with Supercross too. And I'm like, or outdoor motocross happened on Saturday. I'm like, I don't want to know what happened. So I'm like, watched a moto and then it's like radio silence or electronic silence, to not get any lead. And it's so rare. That's one thing I love about sports is like you actually don't know what's going to happen till the very end. It's so exciting. A movie, a lot of times you can figure out this is the bad guy, this person's going to die, early on. But racing, just when you think you've got it figured out, something happens. It's cool.
So the headline for UAE is a rough day for Del Toro, but no reason for UAE to panic for July. So they had a rough day in the team time trial, and that impacted Del Toro.
I'll have to go back and watch that.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we all
so-
need to watch it because the decathlon also had a rough day. So all these big teams that have their stars seem to have struggled, except for Visma.
Yeah.
Well, that team time trial, right? Team pursuit on the road, essentially. So many more factors involved with so many more riders. I was like, I don't think you can ever practice the team time trial enough. And when it becomes a play in a grand tour, even more important. So I think these teams that have been established longer and they've really focused on that pays off. Of course, we'll see what happens in another month.
Yeah,
When was the last time they had a TTT in the tour? I feel like it's been a while.
it has.
Yeah. Maybe.
And this is the new format, which we're not super ready to talk about, but it's like, lead out your team mate and get them across the line.
It's the time of is it just the first rider, the second rider? Because I was watching a little bit of it and I saw him on that last hill, guys would pull and get shelled off. And I thought I saw one team finishing with just 2. Are we privy on maybe we'll have to investigate a little bit further on the tech details of that for next time.
Yeah, it's kind of a lead out scenario where you try and get your leader across the line first.
So it's actual times though.
Yes.
So yeah, you just peeled off. It's kind of like what's that one pursuit they do on the track where they take a pole and peel off? It's a different type of or sprint.
Team sprint.
There you go. All right. Check
So
out the
then-
big brain on Ed.
So it
Well,
says
I happen to know because it was the only event that I was good at in the modern era of track cycling is the team sprint.
What position were you in team sprint?
Never the closer, but the second to last closer. So have a little bit of endurance, but you
Right.
want your fast guy who can hang on the back to be last.
So then I was just looking up. The last full TTT was 2019. It says in the Tour de France. But what were you guys saying about the format? So does each rider get their own time then, or does
I think each rider gets their own time, but it's like it's not dependent on whatever it was. The third, it used to be the 5th rider, I think, when it was 9 in the tour, and then they changed that, right? Is the 4th rider. Now they got 8 4th rider's time or something like that. So I don't think it has to be any number of people necessarily.
Oh, interesting.
You can just keep peeling, peeling riders off.
And then I
And they
wonder
can
if you, as an individual, if you're dropped, do you have to finish within a percentage of the fastest rider on your team's time? Does everyone have to finish in a percentage of the fastest rider overall?
we might have to investigate.
That's kind of right as far as the time cuts go, specifically for that. Because then for sure, like you said, with the team sprint, Ed, you could have the ringers, right? The ones that aren't in GC that can take the big turns early.
Yeah, Escape Collective has a nice article that talks about the world's longest lead out is a modern team time trial, and it talks about, having your climbers do the climbing, have a lead out for the last 500 meters, it really breaks down. It's a good article, which I haven't read yet.
So much to digest, so much going on.
Team time trial. Oh yeah, that's the first thing that came up. The world's longest lead out. All right, just got a little research to do.
Yep.
All right, there you go.
So we'll prepare for the Tour de France by being up to speed on our team time trial tactics and analysis.
TT rules. All right.
Well, what about a little tech? A little blinded by science. Is that our next thing?
Yes.
I think so. So were we going to talk about because it seemed like people were wondering exactly what happened to Unbound to Keegan at the start, why he ended up off the back. Did he flat? Did he whatever? And you guys pulled the nuggets out, right, of what actually happened?
Yeah, in the live feed, you can see him off in the grass getting gapped off the back. He's pretty far back, and he's in the grass walking. And allegedly what happened is those specialized team riders, they prep their bikes pretty detailed. I mean, all these riders are now, but they have a Tubolito style thin what do you call those thin tubes? TPU tube up underneath his seat, and it came out and fell down in his cluster. So that slowed him down. He had to fix that situation. They also specialized, I've looked at their bikes in the pits. They really prep them up. Beers has bacon strips on his brake lines when he had a Crux 4 that had brake lines. Keegan was using the small light Silka inflator pump, the one without the gauge, because it's lighter than 2 CO2s in a chuck. And probably can inflate about 8 or 9 tires. So I think they were using that during the roadside repair with Mads.
Right.
They also require that their team carry 2 SRAM Access extra batteries in their seat bag. I don't know where they're taping those or where those are hidden, but
That one's amazing that you would carry 2. I mean, especially on a 1x. But I guess,
Yeah, I mean, or maybe if your teammate needs one, right? If they all have a couple, they all know that it's right. It's better to have it and not need it than the other way around. I mean, those batteries are pretty small. They weigh less than a gel, even a low carb gel. So
yeah, they're pretty small and light.
yeah, it reminded me I put 2 coin cells in my swap box down tube. So I have 2 coin cells, 1 SRAM Access battery, 1 Silka inflator, the light one without the gauge, a plug, which is a wrong place for it to be because it's too slow to get to it when you need it, but it's in there. $20 bill, my Bowden Pass fishing game, get me out of jail hunting license, an air tag. Those are my items. Oh, and something else. Oh, yeah, that's it. No pump.
No pump. I haven't got the inflator yet. That'll be my next purchase. I'm still on the mini pump and a couple of quick fills in my pack, but definitely looking to get the inflator, which would be nice because that means I'll never have to buy quick fills again.
Yeah.
never say never.
Yeah. Well, I have enough in stock that I wouldn't need to buy them. Yeah, I guess that's a long time. Never say never.
Well, I wonder if you have a Silka, electric pump or any kind of electric pump, how well it holds a charge. So from time to time I recharge mine, but
right.
Also your SRAM Access battery, how long will it hold a charge? So.
Yeah, sitting in there. Yeah. These are all interesting tech points.
Yeah, I just check the charge on my batteries before I leave. So I think I
Yeah.
used to carry a spare battery initially when I started riding that electronic shifting, and then I'm like, well, no, just make sure your battery is charged. So that seems a lot easier. I used to also push it, but then there was a little thing for the Garmin head unit. You can do the SRAM add-on, and it gives you the amount of charge in your battery, just like with Di2. So that's pretty
Right.
helpful.
I remember at a certain period when I had left right when I was still riding my road bike a bunch, and I had left right power, and I would ride from my studio and I'd go ride up Gibraltar. It was pretty fun. It's pretty much uphill the whole way. And one day I went to go out for my ride. I'm like, all right, I got however much time in between some clients, and I go to get on, and my Garmin was dead, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not gonna be able to get my power and all that. And I had this little mini battery pack I'd got for free in a swag bag at some event, like one of those, little small ones that looked like about the size of a pack of Bubblicious. So I actually plugged it in and then just started it and threw it in my pocket and then let it charge up. So by the time I got to the bottom of Gibraltar, I had enough charge I could stick it on my head unit. I used to laugh at, but I had to have the data, had to get it.
Slave to the tech and the data.
Then I detect
Yes.
for the most part. Yeah. All right.
DSD tech.
Yeah.
So my
All
SRAM
right.
Access batteries were on the charger from last Thursday night's Quick and Dirty.
Uh-huh.
I find when they sit on the charger and then you go stick them on your bike and it's been a week, that's when things go wrong. Like if your
Huh.
bike is sitting there, being ridden a couple of times, or the batteries stay on. So all of a sudden my flight attendant, I'm one of my Oprah favorite things, wasn't working. And it was sometimes saying that it needed an update. Sometimes it was saying it didn't need an update. And I'm just like, I didn't really need to charge my batteries. If I just left them on the bike, I wouldn't be struggling
Right.
with this right before I'm trying to leave to meet a ride. So it's kind of an interesting thing. I think flight attendant is a little finicky. And those batteries play part of it. In the little tabs, those little pins that are on SRAM, they're going to have to figure that out, because I'm down.
Yeah.
I've swapped a rear derailleur and a shock now because of those pins, and I'm a year into my bike. So
Right.
Feel
Yeah.
very fortunate, knock wood, about that I've had. I mean, I have one. I think I have an Eagle derailleur that's 5 years old. I've beat the hell out of it and never had any issues.
So when you clean your bike, do you take your batteries off and put a little red cap on, or do you leave your batteries on?
I've always just left the battery on. Yeah. Then of course I started going on these forums. Then I read all this stuff. I'm like, well, I could do the stuff people say, or I could do what's just continued to work for me since day one. I would say that I do, when I'm doing a long drive, I'll take the batteries off and put the little dummy in there, because the way that that SRAM Access system works is when the derailleur shakes, it wakes up the battery, and then it can draw from it. But that's pretty easy. You just pop it off and put that
Right.
the little dummy in there. Then you don't arrive somewhere. It's like throwing a Shimano bike in the back somewhere and having something push against the shifter the entire time, which I guess could happen to either one, right? And you arrive and it's dead. It's
The old-
yeah, the
Yeah, I've
old
done that.
ones.
Yeah, with flight attendant and you have your batteries in, it's always activating the shock when you're driving, and which is using quite a bit of juice and quite a bit of strain on the servos. So I always take my batteries out, but the more you're taking your batteries on and off, those little
Yeah.
pins are getting a workout. And
Yeah.
you have to be real slow and careful when you're reseating your battery, that you're not overworking those pins. So,
All right.
Yeah. All right.
all right. Any other blinded by science? Cass pointed out that the aero testing is done at 28 miles an hour, and who rides a gravel bike at 28 miles an hour?
That was you, DS. Did you put
That was
in
me.
there? Yeah,
Yeah, I was the
DS
one
put
that
that in.
put that up, but then we got so this is part of our maybe a subset of our blinded by science, if I cue up the music here shortly. But I guess I was just thinking about all the all the aero at Unbound, and which makes sense, right? It's like fastest, you're going 20 miles an hour all day, at least the faster riders are. But again, it goes back to this thing of, I feel like sometimes the gravel I don't know what you want to say, narrative is so focused around these races that now, you have the ginormous wheels, super deep, super wide wheels. And I look at the bikes with those things on there. And it's funny, I kind of feel like it's the wheel version of the helmet sponsor that Visma has, with just like that massive thing. It's like, I'm not saying it's not fast, but oh my God, like the look of it. But the other part of it is,
Giro,
and this
that's
is
Giro.
what
Let's call him out. That's
is it
Giro.
Giro? Yeah, yeah. Just the massive helmet. I mean, that's their theory, right? Some people go for the small, like the tight one, so that your head can go up and down and it doesn't affect the arrow. So now I just want to go right out here. And if everybody's like, oh, you're going to have to take a free lap, these wheels are faster. Of course they're faster. They test them. They put all this information into it. My whole point of it is just saying that for the majority of us, and I include myself in that group out there, the speeds that they test at, and yes, there's some reasoning, which is a good counterpoint, but the speeds that they test at in order to get their data on Aero, which is 45 kilometers an hour, or even if it's a little bit lower, 40, 45, 24, 25, 28 miles an hour, the majority of people don't ever ride at that speed. And so I guess I just want to, and I guess this now would be the time to cue up the music for this section of the Blinded by the Science, if I can get this right, if y'all can hear. And for those of you who might know some Public Enemy. All right, I'm just saying, don't believe the hype. Don't believe that you need to go out and drop $3,500 on 35 mil wide rims and everything to go out and have your best ride. I just think, like many other facets of it, like, people who are on a, full road bike racing platform when they really need maybe a wider Q factor, or they need to not be bent over so far. I just kind of see the hype on the wheels. And again, for the top couple percentage of people, yes, it's valid, but I think for everybody else, don't get caught up in the hype and feel like the tech is what's going to dictate the success of your ride.
Valid point.
Yeah. So
yeah, cue back 30 minutes to Matt Wilson riding his gravel bike and winning at Crybaby Hill.
there you go.
Yeah,
right.
It's the motor. It ultimately comes down to the motor.
Yeah.
That Scott is a pretty Aero gravel bike, though, I'll have to say.
Yeah.
Scott does a good job of designing bikes.
I wonder what the bike that he's riding, like the one thing that trips me out on the gravel bikes is, if it's a longer version. Now, some still have a similar geometry, but of course the like head angle and stuff, but all the head angles are more raked out than a road bike. And then you got, clearance, maybe even in the back end, or how they work it around it, you're ending up with a longer wheelbase on your bike. And that might make it just a little less easy to dart and dip in and out in a pack scenario. But obviously whatever was happening, it didn't stop them.
Yeah.
No. All right. I just pulled up the Scott site. So here's the Attic Gravel RC, which is the bike he was on. It, let's see, Geo. So if you take, say, a medium or large, a 54 or 56, 71-degree head angle. That's definitely not a road bike head angle or a Criterium bike angle.
What's the wheelbase?
Wheelbase is wheelbase. So this is in millimeters. So a medium is 1,029 mils to 1,048.7 mils on a large. Take that to inches, right? So wheelbase 40.5 inches on the 54, 41.3 inches on the 56.
Yeah.
So it's definitely
a little bit longer, but making it work.
16.9 inch, so 425 millimeter seats, chain stays as well.
425. Yeah,
425. Those bikes have always been kind of race bikes. I mean, when I was repping Scott, I had an early version of the Attic Gravel, and it's still And you rode mine. I think you came up here once, DS. That was a
great bike,
the bike
actually.
rode really well. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, that's
definitely.
right. I flew up there and did your gravel event, just hopped on your bike. That's a rarity for me. I think I maybe knocked the seat forward a bit,
Yeah.
but maybe brought my own seat up. So
I wonder where Scott does all their design work. I mean, they turned out that 32 bike very fast, but are they designing in Europe or are they designing here in the
I feel
States?
like it's in Europe.
They're in Switzerland.
Yeah.
I think they had during the post-COVID bike crash, they had to take on some different outside investment. Maybe it was one of the factories, but I do believe. So I remember they were finishing up a new facility in Switzerland when I was doing some of that sales repping, and it wasn't quite done. But I can't imagine they took all that and threw it out the window. You got a lot of smart people. It's just the money's coming from somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
Well,
right.
they just rolled out a new XC bike, so it's on Scape Collective today. They're in the game.
Yeah.
Sparky Spark.
Well, so
It is called the Spark.
I
Yes.
know, that's why I said that. The Spark. It's actually a really cool
This
bike.
is the
Shock
Spark
is inside
RC,
it.
but
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, Sparky.
Well, DS, you grabbed
Yeah.
a lot of info that you have here in our show notes. Is there anything in particular you want to read out to the
I think that was Ed
viewers?
that actually grabbed
That
all
was
the,
you grabbed
it?
the
Okay.
following info and put it up. Yeah, so to follow up on that testing thing, and and Ed brought up some information from Cycling News from the subscriber one, but they were talking about, which is fair, of why they test at that higher speed, just because aerodynamics, the drag is exponential, and they feel like even if people aren't averaging that fast of speed, they can get a little bit more out of it doing the testing at the higher average speed. And so they test them at different yaw angles, things like that. And so I say, yeah, all that's still good for that top pointy end of the people. But for most of us, in spite of all that great reasoning for doing it, I'm still saying, don't believe the hype that Aero is where it's at, for the majority of those. All right.
So we all
Yeah.
saw Public Enemy play. Derin gave Flavor Flav a time hat.
That's right, at the Anaconda.
The Anaconda, which was the old Bank of America, which during the 1970s, there was a protest in Isla
burnt
Vista and it
down.
got burnt down. And then we went
Yeah.
and saw Public Enemy. But the most important thing about that concert is the opening act was Rage Against the Machine. And there was about 10 of us in there watching
Yeah.
when Rage came out and played, which is probably all of our rock and roll 90s rock claim to fame is that moment. Not seeing
Yeah.
Public Enemy, but seeing Rage Against the Machine open up with 10 people in there.
Yeah. PE out there. That was awesome. The interesting thing is at that point, the reason why we saw a bunch of shows, the Anaconda, Ice-T came up there, was because there was at that time a ban on all rap concerts in Los Angeles and Ventura counties, because it was at a time when there was just a lot of violence around the shows. And so the Anaconda was literally the first venue that would hold a rap show from like LA all the way up. So that's why we ended up, there was a period where we were getting getting all those shows up there. That was a highlight for me though, getting to see PE live, aside from obviously Rage Against the Machine, but just seeing Chuck and Flav up there, dude, they're still, still one of my,
That's right.
one of my
Didn't we see
favorite.
Third Base out there as well?
Yep, Third Base was out there. Yeah, we saw several. That was a good one.
I say Ice Cube too, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Wow.
Also, yeah.
Anybody have any amateurs?
All right, Cassie, I got to amateur myself. You got to pull up my photo.
Okay.
So that's a yes for me. So in my tech 2 times ago, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to test that Panaracer front, the Driver Pro, and I go out for a ride the other morning, and I go to mount up, and that freaking thing will just not mount. It would not snap on, and I always try and put it in and get it to seal with no sealant, and it just wouldn't grab up on there. I'm like, I've had it before where it's just one spot and you get the sealant in there, it'll seal. And I feel like the tire bead was maybe a little bit tight and it's not grabbing up. But, I will say that we've all had this happen, right? You're trying to just get it to seal and it just won't seal. And that's not necessarily my amateur, because we can all have a moment where you're trying to get to seal. My amateur is not recognizing early enough and then getting sealant on the bumper, on the driveway right there, and also on my shoe. So that's my real amateur move there. Normally, I'm very particular. I got him back. I'm trying to do it. And it's one of those mornings, if I can get this dialed in, I'll go meet up Jonah. And of course, I was 20 minutes late to meet him. And so I put
Why
in,
do you try and get it to seal without sealant? Like,
you know
you
what?
can do that?
Just to see, just for that very reason. Like sometimes you get it to seal, and if you just roll it around and get to grab, it'll pop it up on. And then depending on the sealant you use, you can either just put it in through the valve, or I just usually pop one section of the bead off with the lever and then just pour it in and put it back on. Just less chance for mess.
So do you have the valve out on the compressor? So a open valve, like with the valve?
It just depends. Sometimes if the valve's a little cloggy, I'll just pull it out and try and inflate it with nothing in there, just to get a fast flow. Usually only if I'm having any type of trouble, which I did on this one. So I still don't have it mounted tubeless. I'm like, all right, I got to fall back on the old trusty, which is mount it with the tube and get all the beads to pop up on both sides. Then you got to pop it out, pull the tube out on one side, and then usually it airs up if the one side's already up, and it'll catch. So I got to try and do that so I can ride it this weekend. But that's my amateur sealant everywhere.
So you never actually got it mounted up then yet?
No, it's where is it? It's in my van. It's got an inner tube and it's hanging out there. So I just got to take the time to, like I said, pull the one bead off, pull the tube out, and then stick it all back on and seal in it. Got to put the tubeless valve back in there and do all that.
Amateur. I would say, I would say, Ed, almost exclusively, when I am putting on a new tire, I'll take the valve core out and I will snap the tire completely on and air it up and get it to bead up without sealant. And I mean, always, and then I always fill through the valve, take the valve core out and fill through the valve. I don't ever pop. I see most people like pop a little section and pour it in there, but I just have a little squeeze bottle. I know I've got 2 ounces here, whatever I need, and push that right in.
Using the stands regular?
Stands regular,
push it
yes.
Yeah, that's one of the few ones. Like the Pan Racer sealant is a little chunky, and so you can't push it in through the valve. So that is one part of it. But I use, I'll use that stands a lot too, especially if I'm just doing a lot of tire testing. For that reason, it's just kind of easy to get in and out.
Yeah. So I pop my tire. And I go 4 spokes. That's my measurement. I don't know. And I guess I could go through the valve. Pretty soon I'm going to be using that new Silka. I don't know how well that goes through a valve. I use Orange Seal regular, not the Endurance. And I have some messes sometimes.
Yeah. Well, you know what, and we'll have to talk about at a later date, but we all got some new valves to try out from
That's right.
Muckoff. Our valves,
right.
So I haven't even fully delved into these things, but maybe that will. Yeah.
You've got them right there. Yeah. Mine are downstairs.
The big bore light.
That's right, big bore light. So that was my sealant, my amateur.
All right.
Yeah.
It looks like you also have the positive Pete of the day.
All right, I do have a positive Pete, and I'm going to give a shout out to Ray McPhee, who I had talked about him on some previous episodes where he was thinking about doing the trans, don't get me wrong, divide, right? That's the name of the long one that goes from Canada down to Mexico.
Tour of the Divide.
Tour of the Divide, there you go.
Tour of the Divide.
But he decided not to do that because he wasn't into the camping part of it, but he's been into doing these ultra distance days. And so last year, I think it was towards the end of summer, he did a double Everest on one of our local climbs, Old San Marcos, which I feel like Old San Marcos is about 1,500 feet from, the baseline up to where it intersects, and you would turn around. So he went for a triple Everest this year, and he did it to raise money for the Sage Trail Alliance, which is our biggest local nonprofit trail alliance that goes out and fixes the trails. So he did a triple Everest. He had to do 72 trips up and down Old San Marcos, which is like amazing that he did that. But what I thought was the coolest thing about it is he started on Friday and I was up I checked something. I did a ride and I looked at my Strava and I saw my doctor, Doc Frainer. He had a Strava time from like 4:30 a.m. or something, 4:30 to 6:30. He's like, did 2 laps with Ray. So he got out there early in the morning and rode 2 laps with him. And then I just started seeing a post. My other buddy, Jeffrey, he went out on his mountain bike because he couldn't have kept up with Ray. He did a couple laps with him. And all these people basically were going out all weekend and doing laps with him. And so I'll have to look up the final tally and see how much money he raised and everything. But that's my positive for Ray, for not only just taking that on and doing it for charity, but doing something that's so inspiring that everybody else in the community wants to get out and support it and talk about it. So good on you, Ray.
So just for those of you that don't know, myself included until I just checked it out, a triple Everest equates to 87,087 feet of vertical.
Oh, feet of vertical.
Vertical climbing, right? Because Everest is just shy of 30,000 feet,
right?
29,029. So
I wonder if I climb that much in a year. Maybe. No, I don't think so.
Oh, maybe.
Oh,
I don't know.
Do you?
Come on.
Yeah, maybe.
You do
the
that
longer
little ride
climbs,
with GPS? Well, all I do up here is climb or go downhill.
Yeah.
So.
I'll have to look and see if I got a triple Everest in a whole year of vertical or not. But yeah, well, that's cool, man. So good for him. So I'll have to reach out for him. I'll try and get maybe a little bit of post report. We'll find out what that was like.
He earned the positive Pete on those steep switchbacks. Those things are steep. I'd be sore from those things.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
So good idea, Files. We are getting close to the Tour de France, and Cass has been pointing out, and we have yet to discuss that print is not dead.
Yes.
We all got our Tour de France preview.
Got yours?
No, I don't have mine.
Yeah.
I'll get mine. I got to go check the PO
Fausto
Tour de France guide.
has, the profiles and can sit next to your TV as you get ready for the tour.
That's it. Yeah. Those are actually pretty good. I used to kind of poo-poo on them, but I'm a big fan of, do I need to check out the stages beforehand? But it's pretty neat, like being able to look at it and have the guide and see all the climbs and everything, kind of check it out beforehand. And I just got to say in general, like, I'm just a big fan of print. It's really low tech when you think about how long we've been reading printed material. But then again, its technology is pretty amazing, because if you think of like a magazine, right? You're hopping on a plane and you have it. You can put it in your backpack. You can roll it up. You can stick it in your pocket. You can hold under your arm. It requires no power to run it for the lifetime of however long you have the magazine. Maybe it requires some light. You need to read it. But yeah, I'm a fan of print, and it's just a little bit of an extra layer of nuance in print that we normally don't get in the fast-paced web world.
Yeah, and if you do like print, right? So from the creators of the original Peloton magazine, we got that Fausto of our Tour de France guide, which is kind of coming in and out with my virtual background. But then there's Rouleur out of the UK, which is a little bit larger format, equally intriguing. So, and some great articles. You can go back. And all of these, they also have digital versions too. So it is easy to, if you find something compelling, it's easy to share with somebody. You don't have to send them a copy. But I do think it is, it's worth supporting these ventures that are still doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the magazine industry, there's a concept called the pass along rate. So you can pass this along to your friend.
Yeah. There you go.
And I also appreciated Brad Rowe's opening editorial, Fathers and Sons, about talking about making his family sit and listen to him yell at the TV every June and July as he watches the tour, and that his kid is graduating from college, and that, his son has gone to the races and been on the roadside, and every June and July, Dad's watching it on TV. And I don't know, it's kind of a nice opening editorial. I recommend checking that out.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Wait to
get haven't delved into it yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're running out of time, and that is episode 36.
Yeah.
We've covered most of our ongoing segments. We welcome suggestions on segments and things that you have experienced, and we'll share your stories, or maybe have you on as a guest to tell us about your positive Pete, your amateur moment, whatever. So
That's it.
thanks for joining us.
Yeah. And I
Oh,
will
wait,
I
you
will
gotta-
say, because we were asking, ride with GPS. It says last year I did 115,845 feet of vert for the whole
All
year.
right.
So I got in over a triple Everest in a 12-month span.
As opposed to a 3.5 day span or whatever. Race
Well,
was,
yeah,
4 day
and my
span.
2025 says only or 20. Oh no, no, I stand corrected. That's what I've done so far in 2026.
Oh, damn.
So yeah, because it says four. So yeah, my mistake. That's 2026.
Form A, Chaos.
Whew. Don't call it a comeback.
Always be climbing.
Yeah, ABC. All right, thanks.
All right.
Thanks, guys.